Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. Picture this. It's a beautiful spring day, and Tiago Forte, a regular college junior, feels a tiny scratch in the back of his throat. Probably just a cold, he thinks, popping a lozenge and moving on with his day. Except it doesn't go away. Weeks pass. Then months. The scratch becomes a persistent ache, then genuine pain. Doctor after doctor runs their tests, does their scans, scratches their heads, and delivers the same maddening conclusion. We can't find anything wrong. But tell that to Tiago, who's now struggling to speak without wincing. Swallowing food feels like a punishment. Even laughter, that most natural human expression, has become torture. Can you imagine? Years go by like this. Hope starts to feel like a luxury he can't afford. Finally, they put him on medication that actually helps with the pain. Relief at last. But here's the cruel twist. The medication absolutely destroys his short-term memory. Trips he took? Gone. Books he read? Vanished. Precious conversations with friends and family? Erased, as if someone took a giant eraser to whole chapters of his life. At 24 years old, he's living with the memory of someone decades older. Then comes the turning point. He's sitting in yet another waiting room, probably staring at those generic motivational posters we've all seen, and something clicks. He realizes he's been treating himself like a package being shipped from specialist to specialist, passively hoping someone else will figure it out. What if he stopped being a passenger and became the driver? What if he managed his own health like a project at work? Right there in the waiting room, he pulls out a journal and starts writing his own story. Not the medical jargon version, but his version. What actually helps? What makes things worse? What's he willing to try? And what crosses the line? Then he does something bold. He marches up to the receptionist and asks for his complete medical file. Hundreds of pages of doctor-speak and lab results. He takes the whole stack home and scans every single page into his computer. And here's where it gets interesting. With everything digitized and searchable, patterns start jumping out at him. Connections that no individual doctor could see because they each only had one piece of the puzzle. He realizes this isn't really a disease that needs curing, it's a functional problem that needs managing through lifestyle changes. He starts taking notes on everything he learns about breathing techniques, nutrition, vocal habits. He runs his own experiments, tracks the results, adjusts his approach. Slowly but surely, things improve. The pain doesn't disappear completely, but it becomes something he can live with. And here's the revelation that changed everything. His notes were as powerful as any prescription. They transformed scattered information into actionable wisdom. This experience launched Tiago Forte on a journey that would eventually help thousands of people. He'd discovered something bigger than just managing medical records. He'd stumbled onto a system for managing all the overwhelming information in our modern lives. He called it Building a Second Brain. The book has become a lifeline for anyone drowning in emails, articles, podcasts, videos, and endless browser tabs. It offers a proven method to organize your digital chaos and unlock the creative potential buried underneath. What we're diving into today isn't just another life hack or productivity gimmick. It's a fundamental reimagining of how you relate to information itself. By the time we're done, you'll understand how to build your own second brain, a reliable external system that remembers everything important, freeing up your actual brain to do what it does best: dream, imagine, create, and connect ideas in surprising ways. This isn't about turning yourself into a robot. It's about using technology to become more fully, creatively human. Ever had a brilliant insight in the shower, only to have it slip away before you can towel off? Or you're mid-conversation and you know there's a perfect story or fact you read somewhere that would nail your point, but it's just gone? Vanished into the fog? We've all been there, and it's happening more than ever. We're reading books, binge-watching documentaries, scrolling through articles, listening to podcasts during our commute. One study figured out that we consume the equivalent of 174 newspapers worth of content every single day. Think about that for a second. 174 newspapers. daily. But here's the uncomfortable question. What do we actually have to show for it? How many brilliant ideas have evaporated before we could do anything with them? Tiago Forte has a name for this modern predicament: information exhaustion. It's that constant, nagging anxiety that comes from trying to hold everything in your head. We're using a brain that evolved 200,000 years ago on the African plains to manage the complexity of the 21st century. It's like trying to run the latest video game on a computer from the 1990s. Our hardware just wasn't designed for this workload. As productivity guru David Allen puts it, our minds are for having ideas, not holding them. Enter the second brain. It's a digital archive of your most valuable memories, ideas, and knowledge. Think of it as a personal library that fits in your pocket, or an external hard drive for your mind that remembers everything so you don't have to. A trusted place outside your skull, where you can store and nurture your knowledge over an entire lifetime. Now, this concept isn't actually new. For centuries, creative geniuses, from Leonardo da Vinci to Virginia Woolf, kept what they called commonplace books. These weren't diaries where they complained about their day. They were personal encyclopedias, stuffed with quotes, ideas, sketches, and random observations they found intriguing. These books fueled their creative work and helped them make sense of the world. Even Taylor Swift does this today, using the Notes app on her phone to capture lyrics and song ideas whenever inspiration strikes. What Tiago Forte has done is turbocharge this centuries-old practice for the digital age. He gives us a straightforward four-step method called CODE. It stands for Capture, Organize, Distill, and Express. This is the heart of the entire system, your map for navigating the endless river of information. Let's walk through it together. Step 1 is Capture. Keep what resonates. Imagine you're curating a world-class art museum. Would you hang just any painting on your walls? Of course not. You'd be incredibly selective, choosing only pieces that are truly remarkable, the ones that move people, teach something important, or spark new ways of seeing. That's exactly the mindset we need with information. We can't save everything. If you try, you'll just create a digital junk drawer that's as overwhelming as the internet itself. The goal isn't to become a digital hoarder, it's to become a knowledge curator. So what should you capture? The rule is beautifully simple. Keep what resonates. When you're reading an article or listening to a podcast and something makes your eyes widen or gives you that little jolt of excitement, that's resonance. It's your intuition tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, pay attention, this matters. You don't even need to understand why it matters yet. Just trust that feeling. That's your signal to capture it. What does this look like in real life? It could be insightful passages from books, memorable quotes from podcasts, photos that inspire you, notes from meetings, or even your own random shower thoughts. You can use various tools for this. Most people use a central digital note-taking app, like Evernote, Notion, or Apple Notes, as their second brain hub. But you can also use read-later apps, web clippers, or voice memo apps that transcribe your words. The key is making capture as frictionless as possible. It should take just a couple of taps to save an idea before it vanishes into the ether. Here's a brilliant strategy from Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman that helps guide what to capture. Feynman kept a list of what he called his 12 favorite problems, a dozen big, open-ended questions he was constantly pondering. These weren't problems he could solve in an afternoon. They were grand questions like, how can we make society more equitable? Or personal ones like, how can I spend more time doing high-value work? Whenever Feynman encountered a new idea, he'd test it against his 12 problems to see if it shed any new light. This gave him a filter, transforming passive scrolling into an active hunt for answers. By identifying your own favorite problems, you build a knowledge collection uniquely tailored to the questions driving your life. Once you start capturing what resonates, you'll quickly face a new challenge. What do you do with all this stuff? This brings us to step 2, organize, save for actionability. This is where almost everyone gets stuck. Our instinct, drilled into us by school and libraries, is to organize information by subject. We create folders for psychology, business, history, and so on. But here's the thing. Tiago argues this is exactly the wrong approach for personal knowledge. Think about it. When you're in the middle of a hectic workday, are you really going to dig through a massive psychology folder to find that one useful insight you saved 6 months ago? Of course not. That folder becomes an idea graveyard where information goes to be forgotten. The secret isn't organizing notes by what they are, but by what they're for. The best way to organize is for action. You should always ask yourself, how is this going to help me move forward with one of my current projects? This insight led to the beautifully simple PARA system. It's another acronym standing for 4 universal categories that can hold every piece of information in your life: projects, areas, resources, and archives. Let's break it down. First, projects. These are short-term efforts you're actively working on right now with clear goals and deadlines. Things like finish web page design, plan family vacation, or publish blog post. This is your most active, important category. Second, areas. These are long-term responsibilities you manage over time. Unlike projects, they don't have end dates. Think health, finances, family, or at work, product development. You're not trying to finish your finances, you're maintaining them. This is where you keep information related to those ongoing parts of your life. Third, resources. This is your catch-all for topics or interests that might be useful later but aren't tied to a specific project or area right now. You might have folders for habit formation, classic movies, or interior design. It's your personal reference library. Finally, archives. This is where you move anything from the other 3 categories that's no longer active. Completed projects, areas you're no longer responsible for, resources you've lost interest in. You move them here to clear them out of your way, but you never delete them. In the digital world, storage is practically free, and you never know when an old project might become useful again. Think of it like organizing a kitchen. Your projects are the pots and pans on the stove right now, the meal you're actively cooking. Your areas are items in the fridge, things you'll use soon and check regularly. Your resources are the pantry, ingredients you can pull from for any meal but keep neatly tucked away. And your archives are the deep freezer, for long-term storage, out of sight but available when needed. You wouldn't organize your kitchen by food group, putting frozen fruit next to fresh fruit next to dried fruit. That would be absurd. You organize based on when and how you'll use the food. The PARA system applies that same practical logic to your digital life. Now you've got a system for capturing ideas and organizing them for action. But there's still a missing piece. Just saving information isn't enough. Your notes can still be long and dense. How do you make them instantly useful for your busy, impatient future self? This brings us to step 3, distill. Find the essence. Picture legendary film director Francis Ford Coppola, just hired to make a movie called The Godfather. It's based on a long, sprawling novel with dozens of characters and subplots. How do you even begin transforming that into a focused, powerful film? Coppola had a technique. He took a 3-ring binder, tore the pages out of the novel, and pasted them inside. This became his, quote, prompt book. As he read, he added his own notes in the margins, highlighted key passages, and most importantly, tried to distill the essence of each scene into a single sentence. This notebook, not the script, became the core tool he used to direct one of the greatest films of all time. We need to do the same with our notes. We need to find their essence. The technique Tiago Forte teaches is called progressive summarization. It sounds fancy, but it's based on something you already know, highlighting. But with a twist, you do it in layers. Here's how it works. Say you've captured some excerpts from an interesting article. Layer 1 is the original note itself, the raw material you captured. Layer 2. Later, when you revisit the note, you read it over and bold the most important sentences, the key phrases that jump out. Layer 3. Later still, maybe when you're starting a project and using this note as a source, you read through only the bolded parts and highlight the absolute best of the best. the one or two sentences containing the core message of the entire note. Layer 4, optional. For your most important notes, the ones you return to repeatedly, you can add an executive summary at the top in your own words. Just a few bullet points capturing the main takeaways. Each layer makes the note more discoverable. You can get the gist in seconds without rereading everything. You can zoom in and out of your knowledge, getting the high-level summary, or diving into details as needed. This isn't about creating extra work. You don't summarize every note right away. You only distill a note when you handle it, when you move it to a project folder, or when you're actively using it. It's a just-in-time process. This brings us to the final and most important step: express, show your work. Knowledge only becomes truly valuable when we use it, when we apply it to create something new and share it with others. But so often, we fall into the trap of endless preparation. We think, I just need to read one more book, or I'm not quite ready yet. The author shares the powerful story of Octavia Butler. Butler grew up as a painfully shy girl facing poverty and dyslexia. But she had a dream of becoming a science fiction writer, so she created a system. She never left home without a notebook. She meticulously captured facts, ideas, and observations from libraries, from the news, from her own life. She drew on this vast collection to build the rich, authentic worlds her stories inhabited, eventually becoming one of the most influential writers of her generation. She didn't wait until she felt ready. She started creating with what she had. That's the essence of the express step. It's about taking the knowledge-building blocks you've collected and assembling them into something new. A key concept here is intermediate packets. Instead of thinking about your work as one giant, terrifying final product, like write a book, you break it down into small, concrete, reusable components. An intermediate packet could be anything: a set of highlights from a book, a brainstormed list of ideas, a slide deck from a presentation, even an email you wrote answering a common question. These are your intellectual assets. Each one is a small building block. When you start a new project, you don't face a terrifying blank page. Instead, you assemble intermediate packets you've already created. Author Stephen Johnson calls this the archipelago of ideas. Your project starts not as a blank sea, but as a chain of islands, quotes, notes, and ideas you've already collected. Your only job is building the bridges between them. When you start seeing your work this way, everything shifts. Big projects become less intimidating. You can make progress in small gaps throughout your day, and you realize you already have most of what you need to get started. So how do you find these intermediate packets when you need them? There are 4 retrieval methods. 1. Search. The search function in your Notes app is your best friend. It's fast and powerful. 2. Browsing. By using the para system, you can simply browse the folder for your current project, knowing everything there is relevant. 3. Tags. Tags are like labels you add to notes to create connections across folders, helping you spot themes and patterns. 4. Serendipity. This is the magic. By keeping all your diverse ideas in one place, you create conditions for unexpected connections to emerge. An idea from a biology book suddenly sparks insight for your marketing plan. Building a second brain isn't a one-time project. It's a set of habits you weave into your life. The author recommends a few key routines to keep the system humming. The 2 most important happen at the beginning and end of every project. He provides a project kickoff checklist where you brainstorm and gather existing notes, and a project completion checklist where you review what you've created and save any reusable intermediate packets for the future. He also recommends a weekly review to clear out your inboxes and organize new notes, preventing the system from getting cluttered. Ultimately, this whole system facilitates a profound shift in your mindset. It's a shift from scarcity to abundance. Instead of feeling like you never have enough information, you realize you're surrounded by incredible ideas, and you have a system for capturing and using the best of them. It's a shift from passive consumer to active creator. Instead of letting information wash over you, you become the curator of your own knowledge and the architect of your own projects. And perhaps most importantly, It's a shift that lets you fire your biological brain from the stressful, thankless job of trying to remember everything. You delegate that task to your trusted second brain, freeing up your mind to imagine, wonder, connect, and create. You stop asking your brain to be a hard drive and let it become a visionary, directing the flow of information and turning it into a life of purpose and impact. So what do we take away from all this? When I first encountered these ideas, what struck me most was how they address a feeling I think everyone experiences intensely today, especially young people, being completely overwhelmed. We're told knowledge is power, but we're drowning in it. This book offers not just a lifeboat, but a blueprint for building your own personal submarine, letting you navigate the depths of the information ocean with purpose and control. The most transformative idea for me is organizing for actionability with the parasystem. It's so simple yet so profound. For years, I tried building the perfect digital library with meticulously organized topic folders, and for years, I failed. It was too much work, and I rarely revisited those folders. The moment you reframe the question from, "Where does this information belong?" to, "Where will I need this information next?" the entire game changes. It cuts through complexity and connects your learning directly to your life's goals. It transforms your notes from a passive archive into an active workshop. The second key lesson is the power of thinking small. The idea of intermediate packets is a beautiful antidote to the paralysis that comes with big, ambitious goals. We look at the mountain we want to climb and freeze. This book teaches you to stop staring at the summit and instead focus on gathering the small stones you'll use to build the first step. Each note you save, each highlight you make, each small outline you create, these aren't trivial acts. They're the building blocks of your future creations. It reframes productivity not as heroic all-nighters, but as slow, steady, sustainable accumulation of small wins. And finally, this book reminds us that the ultimate purpose of learning isn't hoarding knowledge but sharing it. The express step is the culmination of the entire process. It's a call to stop waiting until you're ready and start sharing what you know right now, in small ways. Create that blog post, share that interesting article with a friend, start that side project. Because it's only in the act of creating and sharing that our knowledge comes alive, finds its purpose, and makes an impact on the world. This system isn't about becoming a productivity robot. It's about building a scaffold for your mind. It's about creating a structure that supports your curiosity, your ambitions, and your creativity, so you can be happily unoptimized, free to roam, wonder, and focus on what truly makes you feel alive. That was a deep dive into Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but believe me, a summary is like looking at a travel brochure. The real adventure begins when you visit the destination yourself. This book is filled with nuanced examples, practical tips, and a depth you can only appreciate by reading it. If any of the concepts we discussed, organizing for action, progressive summarization, or turning your knowledge into creative work, sparked something in you, I highly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new system, it's about investing in a new way of thinking that can pay dividends for the rest of your life. The link to the book is waiting for you in the description below. Also, if you found this exploration valuable and it gave you a new perspective, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know we're on the right track, and it ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.